Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Kabir Considers. In this video, I'm going to react to 6 ways British and American gas stations are very different. First of all, over here we call them petrol stations. You know, nobody calls them gas stations because we don't really refer to petrol as gas, like the liquid that fuels our cars. We call it either petrol or diesel. You know, I think whereas you use the term gas. And yeah, but other than that, I can't think of how else they would be different. I imagine your petrol stations might be bigger, just because most things in America tend to be bigger than they are here. But yeah, and I think we pay a lot more for our gas. Like we're paying like, you know, £1.50 to £2 a litre. And I think you guys pay that per gallon. So I think we're paying like more than twice what you guys pay. But yeah, this video is by Lawrence from Lost in the Pond. He does an amazing job of these kinds of videos. It's going to be really fun. Let's do it.
And if this sounds extreme, the average cost of petrol in Britain is higher even than that.
Let's go.
Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm on a quest to uncover all of the memos that Britain and America lost in the pond. And one of those memos pertains to gas stations. If you've been paying attention to the news recently, you'll know that Britain has been experiencing a fuel crisis. Much of Britain has reported dry pumps due to a truck driver shortage, and this has led to panic buying.
I remember this. People were filling up, like turning up to the petrol station with like 5 kegs, canisters. You know, people were like, there were fights happening. It was crazy.
And because of the nature of my channel, many Americans have gotten in touch to inquire about some of the differences that they've noticed while watching the news between British gas stations and American ones. And so whether we're talking about nozzles or the cost of fuel, here are 6 ways that British and American gas stations are very different. We can hardly talk about this subject without first covering the differences in terminology. The major difference here, of course, is the fact that Americans refer to the fuel that you put in your car as gasoline, while in Britain, this is known as petrol. But just as with the word soccer and aluminum, the word gasoline didn't originate in the United States.
Why do you guys refer to it as gasoline? Because isn't it petroleum? It's actually, it's petroleum that you put in most cars, no? Aside from if you have a diesel car or an electric car. It's not gasoline, is it?
But Britain...
Could be wrong there, though.
The word is widely believed to have evolved from the word cazoline, as in cazoline oil, named for its founder, John Cassell, who was a 19th century British businessman. We Brits eventually stopped using the word, and then America, not to mention Canada and New Zealand, didn't get the memo. And because Americans use gasoline, or gas for short, the building where you pump fuel into your vehicle is known as a gas station. In Britain, it's known quite similarly as a petrol station. However, when I was a child, 400 years ago, my family and I used to informally refer to it as the garage. And since it appears that that word is still used in Britain in that capacity, the word garage bears the distinction of having both different meanings and different pronunciations on either side of the pond.
Yeah, we also refer to a mechanic's as a garage too. Like, yeah, like I need to take the car to the garage, you know, fix the bumper, blah, blah, blah.
Of course.
What do you guys refer to, like, I think you guys refer to mechanics as the shop. I need to take my car to the shop. Is that right?
All of that is pretty easy to translate between one country and the other. Where it gets confusing is at the pump itself. And this is partly down to the colour coding that each country uses for its nozzles. The big difference in this department is between the nozzles indicating diesel and unleaded. Generally speaking, in the United States, fuel nozzles are colour-coded black to indicate unleaded and green to indicate diesel. In Britain, it's the complete opposite. Diesel is black and unleaded is green. Now, Americans who specifically get their gas at BP might be thinking, hold on, Lawrence, you've got your wires crossed. Or pumps. My diesel pumps are black and my unleaded is green. And that's true. BP is one of the exceptions that proves the rule. Hardly surprising, since BP stands for British Petroleum. All that said, there is one feature of the pumps that lets you know if you're in Britain or America. And that feature is the hold open clip. And some of my British viewers might be watching this thinking, what is a hold open clip? And I don't blame you, because I didn't know myself until I moved to the United States. Here, a hold open clip is a little clip that you can push within the handle that allows you to pump gas completely hands-free. In the UK, safety regulations prevent customers from utilising this feature. And so the question is Britain right to be concerned?
I could see that being useful, like especially if you've got really big car, you know, it takes a while to fill your engine up. But people, you know, the average person, they're not going to focus. And, you know, it's just going to keep going, and then you could cause a spill, which is a massive safety hazard. But yeah, that would be quite useful to have a hold open clip.
And the resounding answer to that question is partly. You see, in the United States, use of the hold open clip has been indirectly responsible for about 100 static fires every year. And while this is very unlikely to happen, the vast majority of these fires have been caused by customers using the hold open clip while returning to their car. And so the static resulting from the person rubbing against their seat and then returning to the hands-free pump has been known to start fires.
That's incredible. Just the static.
All that to say, just be more aware of flammability when passing gas. That's true in both senses of the phrase. Travel is obviously quite restricted right now, but when American tourists do visit Britain, they could be forgiven for looking at the cost of British petrol and thinking, "Ooh, it's cheaper than in the States." But in fact, the opposite is true, and by some way. Travellers will be aware, of course, that the number written on the board is written in pounds sterling, and that this equates to a slightly higher number in US currency. But there's one other very important conversion to consider: gallons to litres. A US liquid gallon is equal to about 3.7 litres.
Oh wow, I didn't realise. I thought it was only like 2.2 litres to the gallon. So yeah, we're paying way more.
So let's say that the cost of fuel at a British petrol station is £1.30 by the litre. To get the amount by the gallon, you'd multiply by 3.7. This comes out to £4.80, and in US dollars, British petrol in this scenario would cost around $6.52 by the gallon. And if this sounds extreme, the average cost of petrol in Britain is higher even than that. If we assume that everything has been converted to US dollars and gallons, the average cost of petrol in Britain over the last 10 years was $7.53.
And how much do you guys pay per gallon? What's your current price per gallon? Like wherever you are, I'm really curious to this.
To the United States, where it was just $2.85. The chief reason for this cost differential is that Britain adds on substantially more tax. It's not...
Wow. So you guys are paying less than half. Like it costs me, and I've said this before, like my car isn't that big. It's not big at all. It costs me about 55, 60 quid to fill up my... No, it's more than that. To fill it up from like zero, which I've not done in a long time, it would probably cost about maybe 70, 80 pounds. So about, what's that, about $100? Like, and my car isn't big at all. It's like a 3-door car. Like, how much does it cost you to fill your cars? And I'm sure you guys, you'll be like, I've got an F-150 and it cost me like $3. Let me know how much it costs you to fill up your engine.
Just hold open clips that make a trip to a US gas station more convenient than their British counterpart. The method by which Americans pay is also easier on the customer, especially those of us who have a hard time talking to people. You see, in America, it is commonplace to prepay for your gas at the pump. And this is usually, of course, achieved by using a credit or debit card, but some machines will even accept cash. In Britain, prepay machines at the pump do exist, but they're far, far less common, with payment usually taking place at the counter, which is why I prefer to take the bus. And
to be fair, I prefer to just pay at the counter, because imagine you're at a petrol station, right? And, you know, there's a long queue at the counter, so you decide to pay at the actual pump. But there's something goes wrong with the machine. So then you've got to go in there, you know, wait in the queue or try and get them to serve you before the massive queue of people. Yeah, I'd rather just get it, you know, done, you know, just the old school way.
I thought I'd conclude this video by looking at the availability of petrol stations.
Have you guys who pay at the pump, have you ever had problems with your card, like, you know, like, or with the machine, or is it quite foolproof? Does it always work?
In other words, how likely are you to encounter a gas station per square mile in both Britain and America? Well, current events notwithstanding, Britain, or in fact the UK, has about 8,385 petrol stations. Given the country's area, this equates to one petrol station for every 11 square miles. Unsurprisingly, the United States has substantially more. As of 2012, it boasted around 114,000 nationwide. But, and I think I've mentioned this before, the United States is substantially larger than the UK.
So I'm guessing you're going to have fewer petrol stations per square mile.
And on that score has only one gas station for every 33 square miles. Now this really shouldn't surprise anybody. Britain of course has a much higher population density than the US. And this is dramatically true if you compare Britain with many states west of the Mississippi. In fact, it turns out there are numerous places out west where there are no gas stations for over 100 miles.
Wow.
So if you forget to fill up beforehand, it could be a long walk. That's it for this episode. Let me know in the comments below if you've experienced the others.
Wow. No petrol stations for over 100 miles is crazy. That would mean that you basically, for me to live in a place like that, I would need to drive a really big car that had a big, like probably a pickup, so that I could, have canisters of fuel on me in case that I run out. Or maybe you just have to plan ahead constantly, that whenever the amount of fuel in your engine or in the tank drops below a certain amount, you go fill up. But if it's going to take you 100 miles to get there, yeah, you got to have fuel on you at all times. Any of you guys who live in areas like that where there aren't very many gas stations, how do you plan things? Do you keep fuel at home? Do you keep gas at home so that you can fill up your engine, fill up the tank at home? How do you plan it? Very interesting video. The price disparity is ridiculous. Like, it's ridiculous, man. How are we paying so much more than you guys? I'd love to know where those taxes are going, how they're spent. It shouldn't be more than double. It really shouldn't. I know that you guys I think the US produces a lot more oil domestically, whereas I think we import a lot of our oil. But Lawrence said that the reason why it's so more expensive is the tax, which is something that the government surely could reduce if they wanted to. Very interesting video. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.